unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
What's up, everybody? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. I am Sans co-host. Ian is en route to Tampa Bay area, coming home from a Yay Sports weekend, as I like to call it. I used to do it all the time, where you do like multiple sporting events in a short period of time. Ian did the North Texas USF game on Friday, and then went to the Oklahoma-Texas game on Saturday. So shout out to him and George, his cousin. Safe travels to them, and we'll see Ian on Wednesday. So this is the Week 7 recap. There was a lot of games going on. Let's get into it. The first game we're going to talk about is USF North Texas on Friday, like the one that Ian was at. And man, it went exactly how I thought it shouldn't go in the first half, because North Texas does not really necessarily have a lot of sustained drives in most of their games. In the two games that I watched, the Army game and the Washington State game, they capitalized on a ton of turnovers by both teams to build up huge leads in those games. Specifically that Washington State game, where they were up 42-3 by halftime. And they had, I think it was 5 turnovers, and it was short fields, like every single possession, basically. And the same thing was true in the Army game. They had 3 turnovers by Army that led to really short fields and like a 17-0 lead, I think it was. I can't remember exactly. But Army came back in that one. North Texas ended up winning, but it was less turnovers by Army in that second half that really led to a close game there. But in this game with South Florida, Byram's fumbling it. He throws a pick. Like there was like 3 turnovers, like right away. Isaac had a turnover, and it was just like, I'm seeing it on Twitter. Everyone's getting frustrated, and it's like, here we go. North Texas scores on that first one. The crowd is amped. It's a sellout crowd in Destin, and things are going their way. And it's like, man, what is going to go on here? Like, is USF going to blow this one? Or are they just like going to turn the ball over like crazy and it's going to be over? But I will say, in those couple of possessions where they were turning the ball over, they were moving the ball, especially on the ground. And I was like, all right, there's glimmer of hope here. And from that last interception, which was the end of the first quarter, was the last play of the first quarter, USF just dominated. And they went on a run of it was 56-22, I believe, point run. So like they just dominated from that point on. They were the ones forcing the turnovers. The quarterback for North Texas, Mestamaker, was making a ton of mistakes. He had 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions. Some of their wide receivers were getting hurt. They were fumbling the ball. And, USF was just running the ball extremely well. And then Byram was finding receivers. Chaz Nimrod went down in this game. Some other players went down. It was like definitely a medics game where just players are going out left and right. And so, Byram, this kid doesn't get enough credit. Like, he was getting credit in the beginning of the year because he was playing like better teams and doing well. And now, like, obviously North Texas is not a sexy name, a sexy brand in college football, but he still played extremely well. He had, let me see here. He had like over 300 yards total. He had 5 TDs. Like, he was dominant in this game. And I'm seeing a lot of Twitter USF people complaining about him being RB1. Like, I get it. Like, he runs the ball a ton and is not like the most accurate, but 22 of 28 is pretty accurate. And he does the things necessary to win the game. And I really feel like he's talented enough to get to the next level. He's got an athletic build, and I think the NFL can build on what he has, like game wise. I know the USF fans, for whatever reason, there's a lot of them out there don't seem to believe that and are kind of like naysayers with him, but whatever. Hey, to each their own. But I really feel like Byram is USF's best chance to win. And I feel like he more than likely will get drafted in the NFL. Like that's just, I don't know how you can't see that, but that's on you. But the defense after those first couple of possessions where, North Texas looked like they were going to be on a roll all night long, the defense really came to play. I mean, North Texas still got a couple of scores after that, but it was kind of like here and there because USF was scoring at will. I mean, 63 points, like you're at that point, you're just, that's like a cash machine that you can't stop getting cash from. Like they were just dominant. And, North Texas is a good team. Even though they lost by 28 points or whatever it was, it's 27. I still felt like North Texas is one of the better teams in the American Conference and probably one of the better group of 5 teams. They're a really talented team. Their receivers are good. They lost one of their actually a couple of their receivers too during that game, and hopefully they're healthy coming the rest of the year. But North Texas they have an easy road the rest of the year, so this isn't probably the last time we see them on a big stage, and more than likely they have a real shot at getting to the American Conference championship game, which if USF wins out, that USF would be hosting in Tampa. But USF has a long road to go. They have a much tougher schedule than North Texas. They have Memphis. They've got Navy. And UTSA is a sneaky tough team too as well. So it's a tough stretch for USF. They have like 3 games right in a row, and the next couple of weeks are going to be really tough. So this is just the amuse bouche. This is the appetizer to the rest of this schedule for USF. They get kind of an easier game next week. It's still going to be tough because it's a FAU. It's not going to be an easy game. Like FAU still can score points. They got a talented team. So it's homecoming for USF. I'm super excited. I think that the crowd should be a lot larger than the last couple of weeks. And I think it's just building as the team keeps winning these big games. The fervor for this team just keeps growing and growing. And it's such a great thing to see because, being a USF fan I've been literally a USF fan since like 95. Like I went to basketball games with my dad and my brothers, like when we were little kids. And I have always loved this school. I bleed green and gold. I really do. Like, I know I'm a huge Gator fan and I always talk about it. Like, obviously I'm not shy about it, but I've been a huge USF fan from like the jump. And, I was there in the beginning days of the football program, watching it when there was there was still decent crowds, but it was like playing nobody teams at first. That first year I was in college, USF was playing small teams. They were getting like decent matchups every once in a while, but it was a lot of whatever teams. And then, I was there in 2003, I believe it was, when USF beat a ranked Bowling Green with Urban Meyer. And it's such a great thing to see because it's for so long, the last 10 years, ever since Willie Taggart left, the team has just been on this downward trend for 7-8 years. And really, Alex Golesh, credit to him for what he's done with this program. I'm, a huge fan of his. I really appreciate what he's done for this school. And, he's been a tremendous asset to the program. And, whatever happens, if he leaves, whatever, I feel like the program is set up for success. They got the OCS coming. You got Rob Higgins. Shout out to him, the athletic CEO. He's just a tremendous asset to the school as well. He bleeds green and gold as well. He's been a USF fan since the jump. And, Alex Golesh, he's a hot commodity. There's a lot of firings going on, which I didn't even mention yet in the beginning of the program, is that, you got Oklahoma State open, you got Arkansas open, you got UCLA open. Now you got Penn State, you got Va Tech, you got Oregon State. All these like very heavy programs. Definitely Penn State stands out amongst all those, but like those are good named programs, and Alex is definitely going to be tempted to leave. Just thinking about it as like he said so many like glowing things about the community, and he's raising his family in the Tampa Bay area. They've already been here 3 years. About like you're setting your roots, and there's a new stadium coming. So like they're going to get revenue from there. And, there's a potential of a move to a bigger conference, like maybe ACC or potentially Big Ten, but Big Ten seems kind of like a pipe dream after the news the other day with the private equity stuff. So like maybe ACC is it. And like, I would be down with that. I mean, like Duke coming to USF's stadium, to the Sundome or Yingling Center, and like North Carolina. Yeah, I'm all about that. Like, and then back in a conference with Louisville and Syracuse and Pitt and Boston College. I don't think BC was there, but Pitt and Louisville and Syracuse are old friends. Like, yeah, I'm down for that. I love playing those guys back in the day, and that would be great. Like more brand names playing us again. Like it's no offense to the teams that are in the American now. It's just not the same. Like even when like 15 or 12 years ago when the American started, it was like Cincinnati was there and Houston and UCF, and like there was actually some decent programs, and now it's like, and it's lost its luster, and it's a shame because USF got holding the bag, and it is what it is. They just picked a terrible time to be bad in athletics. And it was really mainly football, because football was just atrocious for like a 5-6 year period. And, there was nothing they could do. Like they were just bad, and there was no really resurrecting it. It really wasn't until Alex Golesh came and really just changed everything. So I'm going to get off this soapbox. I could talk about USF football and like how much it means to me, but I'm excited for everything. It's a huge win. They win 63-36 against North Texas, moving on to FAU next week. And we move on to our next game. We've got Ohio State, Illinois. This game, Illinois is definitely like not a bad team at all. Like they beat USC, they beat Duke. They got destroyed against Indiana, but Indiana's a very good team. I think probably one of the best teams in the country. And Ohio State is one of the best teams in the country. So losing to these two teams as your only two losses is really not that bad of a ordeal. You could still make the most of the season, because if you win out, you still have a shot at going to a playoff, even if you don't go to a conference championship game. So they have an out-large shot. Ohio State just looked like the better team. Jeremiah Smith making plays all day. Julian Sain was like, okay. The turnovers were really the story in this game, because like it wasn't like Ohio State dominated yardage wise, because they only had 272. Illinois actually outgained them. Yeah, it was the 3 turnovers that Illinois had that were really the difference in this game. So Illinois just can't make mistakes in big games like that. It's crucial. It's like you got to limit the turnovers, which almost bit USF in the butt, but luckily they caused a bunch. But then in this Illinois game, it's like they couldn't cause any from Ohio State. So you just put yourself behind the 8 ball, and Illinois just doesn't come back in this one. Ohio State wins 34-16. But as far as Illinois' schedule going forward for the rest of the year, let me pull that up 1 second. They have Washington, who only has 1 loss. So that's a tough game because Damon Williams is a stud, and that'll be a tough game to keep him in check. But they do have a really good defense, Illinois. So they're probably up for the task there. Rutgers, it's a tough game, but they should be favored in that. Favored against Maryland, favored against Wisconsin, probably favored against Northwestern. So really only the Washington game stands out. So if they can win the Washington game, they could easily go 10-2 with the rest of that schedule. So This is not the last we have seen of Illinois, and they're not a bad team. Altmaier is a good quarterback, and he definitely deserves, some praise for how good he's been this year because he puts up some monster games, like well over 300 yards passing in like at least 3 or 4 games this year. Okay, next game we have. This was a really intense game here. Alabama, Missouri. Alabama was up by like 10 at some point, but then Missouri came back. I credit to them because I have not been the biggest fan of them because of their schedule, but they really played in this game. They were really right there with them the whole time. And but credit to Alabama because Alabama's just, they're like a machine right now. Like Ty Simpson didn't have his best game, but he still had over 200 yards and 3 TDs. Jam Miller had a great game, but he got hurt at the end of it. Perbula kept them in this, but he had some bad picks, especially that last one at the end of the game. But, Missouri, I don't know. Their schedule is soft outside of the Alabama that they just lost to. And then, I think they have Oklahoma as well. So, they really don't have, enough tough matchups to really, put them into the playoff. So they'd have to go 10-2 to have, any really, realistic shot. And I don't know. I just don't see it. Well, they also play A&M. So, okay. So they have 2 really tough games and they have Vanderbilt. So there's 3 tough games. I don't see them going 2-1 in that instance. I see at least 2 losses. And we'll see what happens to Oklahoma because of Mateer. He's still dealing with that injury a little bit. We'll talk about the Oklahoma-Texas game. But I don't know. I just don't see it. And if they get 3 losses, there's no way. Missouri is not good enough. Their schedule is just not good at all. So outside of those 4 games that they had on their schedule. Okay, moving on. The surprise continues. UCLA, man, this is the resurrection from the dead, the zombie program that was just buried. The Undertaker just rising from the coffin. Dude, this is so ridiculous. They were gone. They were written off. People were like, they're not winning another game. And they were basically not going to until Neuheisel comes in 2 days before the Penn State game and comes up with the greatest game plan to beat one of the best teams in the country at that time. And now they go from, having a great offensive output and barely beating Penn State to then just dominating Michigan State. This game was never close. Michigan State scored the first touchdown, and then UCLA just dominated them from then on out. Nico doesn't put up a ton of yardage as far as passing wise, but he makes enough plays in the passing game to where you have to account for it. And also because of his run game, he's dangerous. RPOs are just him. It's he's just like a maestro back there because he can navigate that stuff. He's very deft at running. He's agile. He's smooth. I remember him last year at Tennessee and he was great. They got him to the playoffs and, he's a very good quarterback. And I was excited for them coming into this game this year. And I had him at 9-3 just because of thinking with Tino Sunseri and thinking, so I was like, oh, this team should be moving well. And they've got the talent, whatever. But then it was I don't know. The offense just never could do anything. They scored 10 points, 10 points, 17 points, 10 points. It was all they could muster. And, I was like, there's no way this team is that bad. Nico is a super talented quarterback. The wide receivers are very good. Berger, the running back's good. There's talent on this team. And the defense is good enough to win these games, but they just couldn't do anything on offense. This was a huge negative. And then just Neuheisel comes in and just changes everything. And it's just this revelation. And it's just an amazing, just the difference in these last 2 weeks for this program is just night and day. And shout out to all those UCLA fans. Richard, if you're listening, man, I'm so happy for you guys. Because even no matter where this goes this year, this has been an amazing ride just these last 2 weeks. And you know what, man? The schedule is brutal after this. I tweeted about it earlier today. And they've got Washington, they've got USC, they've got Ohio State. They've got Nebraska, Indiana. Like next week is like literally the there you go, Richard. I knew you were listening. My dude. But no, it's a tough road, but man, like this is what college football can be. And we will get to Florida and talking about what the potential of programs should do. If things are going terribly, if the offense is terrible and the coach is responsible for this stuff, get rid of them. Like, I don't get the loyalty to these people. Like, there are huge programs with a lot of money online. You know, there's no reason, like pro sports, if things are not going well, they get rid of you. And that's what happens. And like, for whatever reason, yeah, true chess. Yes, Richard, you're correct. When they play Indiana, we'll see. I mean, I don't know what to make of that game. I honestly don't, because it's in Bloomington, so it's going to be a real tough one for UCLA. But you know, if the offense plays as well as they have the last 2 weeks, and I think Penn State's defense is better than Indiana's, I feel like UCLA is in that game. I don't know what the score will be, but I feel like it should be close. And to have said that 3 weeks ago, I would have said you are crazy. But tonight, I think everyone in the country would agree that's a good assessment of that game. And they could end up being blown out, which whatever is possible. They've fired their coach, fired everyone on staff, but I don't know. This UCLA team is fun to watch, and that's what I love about college football is when it is fun. Offense is fun. I love defense too, but like when the offenses are clicking, long touchdowns, you know, great plays, like it is just enjoyable to watch. And to watch an offense slug and barely do anything up and down the field, it's boring. It's not fun. And I'm sorry, but like, I'm grateful that they fired all those guys. You know, like it sucks for them, but at the same time, it's like it was the right move for this program, and UCLA deserves to have a good program. You know, I thought things were going well with Chip Kelly, but he kind of, you know, dropped the ball with recruiting. But whatever, this program is still a good program, and it's in the second largest media market in the country. You know, there are a ton of fans in this city that love UCLA. I see it all the time. Wherever I go, I see UCLA fans. And you know what? They're a proud fan base, and they deserve to have a good football program. And I hope that Neuheisel stays in some capacity, whatever he does. I hope he stays on as OC or whatever. And Skipper has done great. I love Skipper. He's done a really good job. He was at Florida, I think, when Mullen was there. And, like, you know, he's done a heck of a job. But I just feel like Neuheisel has to have a part in this program. He bleeds, you know, blue and gold. And, like, man, he's integral for the future of this school. Okay, moving on to UCF Cincinnati. Sorsby looked pretty good in this one. UCF stayed in the game as much as they could till the very end. They scored a late touchdown by Fancher, but Cincinnati's just a better team. Like, this UCF team is like playing for a bowl game at most, maybe. And, you know, it is what it is. They don't have the talent to match with the rest of the Big 12. Big 12 is just a better conference than the rest of the Big 12 is just better than UCF. So, like, it's not an insult to them. It's just the reality. Until they start recruiting at a very high level, and I think maybe Frost will get them there, but it's going to take some time, because, like, even like teams like Cincinnati, who were somewhat their equal in the American, are now outpacing them immensely. And it just, you know, it's not like UCF is like so far off, because the offense does put up numbers. They had 413 yards, and I saw the game against Kansas State, and they looked decent in that game, even in the loss. So they're not a atrocious team. They're just not defensively. They're not as good as some of these other programs, and offensively, they're not at that level of scoring like 35 plus a game. So they're not able to compete with these other teams. So Cincinnati wins 20-11. Moving on to Ole Miss, Washington State. What a game. Like, this was, I'm watching the ticker as I'm watching other games, and I'm just like, oh man, are they really like in a dogfight with Washington State. And, credit to Washington State for staying in this game like the entire time. Like it was never like this was never a shoe-in for Ole Miss in any way. Like they were losing for a good portion of this game. And Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin does what's necessary to win this game. Chambliss had a decent game, 253, 2 TDs. Lacey for Ole Miss had a really good game, 142 yards on the ground. Chambliss had another touchdown on the ground as well. Ole Miss in the beginning of the game, they had a possession that were inside the 5 or the 10, and they turned it over. So if there were points there, maybe this game's a little bit different. It kind of changes the whole complexity, but they still played with them the whole time. And Washington State was right there. They were making plays. Ole Miss's defense was getting off the field though on third down. And so that was huge. They were able to make a difference there. Ole Miss they were just a better team that outlasted them at this point. And I think, Washington State played as best they could. And, credit to them because they could have folded if, any kind of resistance, but they stayed with them and they were right there with them to the very end. Okay, moving on. Dude, the big game of the day in Eugene, Indiana, Oregon. God, I wish I was there. I wanted to go so bad. I'm hoping next fall, because I'm going to be working on a show that I can't talk about, but I'm going to be working on a show coming up for most of next year, hopefully. And that'll bring me into the fall. So I should be in a better place financially at that point. So I'll be able to do some of these bigger games that are not specifically tailored towards just the teams that we cover. I would like to branch out and do more games something like this, like an Indiana, Oregon, or a Penn State, Oregon, or Ohio State, whatever, or different, just to go to these different stadiums and get more content with the brand, and I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be, nice to network with other people there and tell them about the brand. And, it does go well. Whenever I'm wearing the branded shirt or whatever, and I talk to people, they like chatting it up, and, it's fun. And I like doing the brand. I like doing the coverage with having my gear and my gimbal and my camera and getting coverage. It's fun to go around. Everyone's just having a good time. That's what I think is the best of this sport, is the enjoyment of the fun of college football. And I really try to encapsulate that here. And, and I really, I hope that it shows with how me and Ian talk about stuff. Cause it's we love this sport so much and we really want to relate that to you all and show through our passion for this sport and how much we enjoy covering it. And it's been a blast. It really is so much fun. I enjoy meeting everyone. Any game I go to, I try to reach out to people on Twitter that are mutual follows and just be like, hey, let's go and let's hang out and just getting photos, whatever coverage and anything I can do. And it's been honestly, it's been a really great couple of years. And anyways, let's get into this game. I'm waxing poetic here, but Indiana, just a monster game here. Just, Mendoza, he threw one bad interception and it was a pick six that could have been just soul crusher. But the good thing it only led to them being tied. So it was 20-20 at that point. And then Mendoza hits Surratt, and Surratt, man, this kid is quietly just tearing up the Big Ten. And you don't hear much about him nationally, but the kid had a great game against Iowa, had a great game here against the Ducks, and had 121 yards, a touchdown. Just makes huge plays all game. Mendoza played really well outside of that pick. Dante Moore struggled, had 2 picks that were just kind of rough. He did have a nice touchdown throw. I will credit him for that. The Ducks, I think they did enough to win this game, but the mistakes by Dante were really kind of detrimental. And, they were in the game. They just, I don't know, offensively, they only had 267 yards, but it wasn't like Indiana had a ton of yardage either. I think Indiana just wanted it more. You know, it's a top 10 matchup. These two teams are vying for Big Ten conference game, conference championship game spots and potential first round buys. And it looked like Indiana wanted it more. I think they learned their lesson last year where they had to go on the road to Notre Dame and they lost that game in the playoffs. And they're like, no, we want a home game. And if we don't get a home, like even better, we want a first round bye. So like they know what is available to them if they just keep on winning. So this IU team, you know, Signetti, I've been a huge fan of Signetti ever since literally the first game I noticed like who he was and like what he was all about was the Indiana UCLA game last year. And I was like, whoa, what is this? Like I had no idea who he was up in that point. I remember James Madison, but we didn't like talk specifically about him. It was just more about the team. And I didn't even realize that he went to Indiana when that happened. And like, man, I'm a believer. Like the guy is just amazing. And for Florida, you know, for as far as like coaches go, he would be perfect. He's brash. Google me, everything. Like his whole like aura is just like, man, this guy just has it. His offensive philosophy is just pour it on, keep scoring points. It's exactly what Florida is all about, has been about for 30 years. And, you know, I don't know why people are like so hesitant. I know he's older, but it's like Nick Saban still had 10 years from when he was 64 years old, or like 10 or so years after that point. Like he could still coach for like 5 or 6 years. And if he gets a national title in that time, don't you want that? Don't you want a national title? I don't know. I just don't get the like, you know, the like thinking of like, oh, he's old. What, like, no, I don't care. I want to win. I want to win now. I don't care how long he stays. Just win now. You can figure out things after that. Like winning now breeds more winning, and then winning, it's just like a snowball. So you like keep that going. Even with Nick Saban gone, they got DeBoer. They hired a great coach. You just hire good coaches. You don't go out and keep like, yes, you're going to hire bad coaches. That happens, but you have to find the right one. And I shout out to Gator Nation Football Podcast. You know, they always talk about it. Keep hiring and firing until you get the one. That's just what you do. You cannot retain people that are terrible at coaches. Like if they're a terrible coach, there's no reason to keep them. But Indiana wins this game. Signetti's a great coach. They're moving on. They're now number 3 in the country. I like, man, if you told me like 5 years ago that Indiana would be number 3 in the country, I would have been like, no way. There's no way in heck. And here we are. And they're like in the driver's seat for everything in front of them. Okay. This is the other game that Ian went to on Saturday with George. Oklahoma, Texas, Red River shootout or Red River rivalry, whatever. Texas wins 23-6. Mateer just imploded, 3 interceptions. It wasn't like Arch had a huge game. He was efficient, but he was not a ton of yards in this one. He had 166 for a TD. But Mateer just kind of, I don't know, 3 interceptions. You're not going to really like win many games when you do that. And Arch didn't have an interception. He had 2 last week against Florida. So he really kept that in check. There wasn't like a ton of yardage between the two teams, 302 for Texas, 258 for Oklahoma. Texas had a better ground attack this game than they did against Florida. They had a huge punt return for a touchdown. That was really the backbreaker because it was like, I think the score was, I think it was like 13-6 at that point, and then they got the punt return, and then they got a field goal late. But yeah, the punt return really like set the stage there. So Texas is not dead. Oklahoma is wounded now. You know, I had high expectations for them after that nice start, but Mateer's injury really kind of dampers things. And their road is rough, man. They've got South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, and LSU. So, I I don't see, at best, it's like 3-3 with that. So, and I would have thought better earlier in the year, but now I'm like changing my prediction just because of Mateer's struggles and his injury. So it does put a wrench in the gears. So 3-3 would make them, what is it? 4 losses. So that'd be 8-4. So not a bad year, but definitely the way things were going, it felt like this was going to be a special year, but maybe put the brakes on that for them. But Texas, they got a lot to play for. They've got the Georgia game in a few weeks, and then they also have got after this, they've got Kentucky and Mississippi State should be snoozers. Vanderbilt should be a tough game, and then A&M at the end. So they've got like 3 real tough games left. They should be favored in 3 of them, and then the 3 tough games. So there's I can see definitely like one more loss there at minimum. So best of luck to Texas, but I don't think they're going to make the playoff this year. Like 9-3 just won't cut it. They do have a tough schedule because they played Ohio State, but they also played a lot of tomato cans as well in the beginning of the year. So we'll see. Okay, moving on. Notre Dame, NC State. I did not watch this highlight package. I did not get a chance. I'm just being honest. I was up till I didn't get home till like 2 a.m. last night. It was my buddy's birthday. So, I'm struggling today. Just a little late on getting things done today. But no, I didn't really when I chose what not to watch. I was like, you know what? Notre Dame really kind of cruised in this game, and NC State really isn't that good. So just from off the stats, NC State, 3 interceptions by Bailey. So not a great game. Really put them in a bad bind. And CJ Carr, just stat watching. So I really didn't even get to watch the highlights. 342 with 2 TDs, did have 1 pick, but CJ Carr, from a guy that was redshirt freshman, kind of shaky in that first game against Miami, to now what he's doing, he's putting up 300 yards a lot. And this kid, I mean, as a redshirt freshman, he has a lot to grow into. So it's exciting what he's going to be able to do for the rest of the year, but and the rest of his career, really, honestly. Okay, moving on. God. And I'm not even going to talk about the game because the game just pissed me off so much. And, Florida loses to Texas A&M 34-17. But, the offensive game plan is just terrible. What pissed me off the most was with the game still in doubt, and I think it was a 7-point game, and they had the ball at the 50, and it was a 3rd and 6, and he runs it to Baugh, and I know he does this. He sets up run it on 3rd so you can have a short play on 4th down, and it's just man, I'm so over it, dude. Figure out a way to convert 3rd downs. Do not do this crappy handoff that everyone knows is coming. They weren't even prepping for a throw. They know you're running the ball when it's 3rd down. That's just what you do. You have done it consistently for 4 years now. And that was it. That's what really I've already been off the Billy Napier train since last year, since the last A&M game. But this was, if he's not fired now, I honestly don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. There's not more to say. They, were in this game, but the offense struggled in a lot of ways. The defense kept them in it, and just Billy makes dumb plays. He clock management's terrible. Can't score late in halves. Can't score late in games. He's just inept. He's an inept play caller. I feel so bad for these kids because it's they're so talented. Dallas Wilson and VB3 and Mizell and even J. Michael Sturdivant had a really good game, and Baugh and DJ. And there is a ton of talent on this team, and the defense is loaded. Miles, such a great kid, and Tyreek Sapp, and Gums, and Jaden Robinson and Bryce Thornton and Devin Moore. Like, the team is loaded with talent. There is no excuse for this team to be as bad as they are, to be 2-4, to have one win against an FBS team. Like, it is just so sad. Like, Billy Napier is not a good coach. He's not. He's not a good offensive play caller, and he needs to be fired. That is just it. There's nothing else more to be said. And I'm not going to break down the rest of the game because there's not really much else to talk about. It was a horrible performance. They lost. He should have been fired, left on the tarmac, and that's it. Like, there's nowhere else to go with this. Like, the program is in a rut. They're literally at the same place as UCLA, and UCLA fired all their coaches. So what is that telling you? What is that telling you? I don't know what else to tell like Florida fans. I was like beside myself today when I tweeted at Shannon Snell, and like Snell's like complaining, and like he rightfully should be, as an alumni, as a former player, pissed at the progress and where we're going with this program. And I was just like, what do we do? I'm like curious. I'm like literally asking because I'm like, Shannon, you are like, a wise person. Like, what do we do as a like fan base, as like players? It's so frustrating to watch, like to see this once proud program to just grind it into a meat grinder and just, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Like, and it's frustrating because it's like, there's so much talent on the team. And they're capable of, they should be honestly right now 5-1. I think probably the game that they definitely should have lost was the Miami game, and they probably should have been in that LSU game. They probably should have beat USF. They more than likely, if they like had some offensive game plan and like some huevos in the A&M game, they probably have a shot there too. And it's just like, I don't know, like with the talent on this team, they match up with every team in the country. They really do. And I will credit to Billy for that because he's a great recruiter. There's not a denying that. Like, he definitely has done a better job than Dan Mullen did. And I know people complain about the numbers, whatever. They were all inflated because of the non-qualifiers that would never show up on campus. And everyone knows that, like, regardless of what it is, Dan did not recruit near the end, and that was really why the program was in such a hole. And that's why Napier got hired in the first place, because he was a good recruiter, and they knew that, and they were like, oh, we need to get recruiting back up, and we've done that. And that's when, honestly, this needs to be the Zook moment. And maybe Mississippi State is next week and they fire him just like they fired Zook after the Mississippi State game, and you know what, they have a bye week into Georgia. Maybe that changes everything. I don't know. I'm just tired of ineptitude and a team that is capable of putting up a ton of points, only putting up 17, only putting up 16 against USF, only putting up 7 against Miami. Like, you cannot do this to win games. 10 against LSU. Like, outside of the Texas game, they've averaged like 17 points a game in these FBS games. Like, it's pathetic. It is not good in any way, and it just has to stop. I don't care, like, what happens the rest of the year. The rest of the year is, at this point, it's kind of shot, because at 2-4, you have no shot at the playoff. But you have to do something about the future of this team, because, like, there's so much talent, and the coach is so terrible, and I'm just over it. I'm fed up. I'm really done with it. And moving on to Georgia Auburn, and like, credit to Kirby Smart, because like he wins these games where Florida does not win these games right now. But in this game, though, it was very controversial. Jackson Arnold has a potential touchdown that resulted in a fumble recovered by Georgia, where if he scores, which it looked like he did, they would have been up 3 scores, and that game is probably vastly different. But I will say Georgia really kind of dominated in that second half. They get a field goal after that fumble, made it 10-3, and then Georgia scored 17 straight in the second half to win 20-10. They did enough to win. It was not a great game by Georgia, but they were, they're just a better team than Auburn right now. and Auburn's, I don't know, their passing game is just not that great, and it's a struggle. They can run the ball at a decent clip. I know they had 140 on the ground. As far as running back wise, they had Cobb had a decent game, and Arnold had a decent game run wise. But just, I don't know, this Auburn team, like, I'm not really like sure what to make of them, because they're not completely terrible, because the defense is good enough. Like, they were really strong in the first half against Georgia. And, if Auburn just does anything on offense, because like in the highlight package I saw, Auburn was just like on their side of the 50 and like long third downs and like just couldn't convert, and just, not going anywhere. So that really is going to tire out the defense in the second half, which it did. And then Georgia was able to take advantage and make some plays to win that one. Because like at one point, Georgia was like 0 for 7 on third downs. So like, Auburn's defense was doing the thing, and 0 for 7 on third downs. And then they ended up finishing 5 of 14. So they went 5 of 7 on third downs after that point. So, you can't rely on your defense the whole time. You have to score points, and you have to do something on offense. You cannot just, do nothing a whole half. Okay, moving on to Kansas, Texas Tech. Man, if you don't know about Texas Tech, now you know, because Texas Tech is a monster. Like, they brought in a ton of guys from the transfer portal, paid a ton of players to come in, and these guys are good. Like, running back Dickey is a stud. Baron Morton, I don't know what happened to him. He left the game. Hammond came in and had a really good game after that. But Cameron Dickey had 263 yards on 21 carries, 2 TDs. Morton is more of the gunslinger than Hammond. Hammond is still a solid quarterback, but like, Hammond had 2 rushing touchdowns. One that was like really nice. He like ran into some guys he was going in. And but Hammond is not as good as Baron Morton. So that might be the problem. But they're really talented besides that. So we'll see. Hammond had 2 TDs, 61 yards on the ground. I think defensively, this is one of the best teams in the country. I think it can travel. We'll see what's up with Baron Morton going forward. Sorry, my throat's hurting. But no, this Texas Tech team, super talented. They win 42-17. This game actually got close at one point when Morton went down, and I believe it was like 20-17. And then Hammond led them to a bunch of scores late, and it's very similar actually to the Utah game. So, I don't know what's going to happen with Morton, and that's a huge question mark, because he's definitely the better of the 2 quarterbacks. But we will see. I still like Hammond a decent amount to be able to take Texas Tech to bigger things for the rest of the year. Okay, moving on. Man, I loved every second of this. USC beating Michigan. Man, what a great, just pantsing. Like, USC just dominated this team. And like, Underwood was all right. He had a couple of plays, a couple of nice touchdowns, but USC is just a better team than them. And I'm glad that USC got to show that this year, because last year, Miller Moss, whatever, he had a bunch of turnovers, but this year they're just a better team. And I knew they were going to prove it. Maava had 2 TDs, 265 yards. And then like the backup running backs, Miller and what's the other guy's name? Miller and Jackson. Yeah, just came in, and Miller had a monster game. And I don't know exactly what happened to Wayman Jordan, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but not great when your 2-star running backs are out, because those guys are great. But Miller came in and played phenomenally. And, USC was just the better team. 489 yards to 316. That's domination right there. That's like 200 yards more. They kept them to 2 of 9 on conversions. They did have a couple of turnovers. McCree had a fumble, and then Maava had an interception. But outside of that, USC was the better team, and just dominated this game. And it's great to see, because I like it when USC is good here, living in LA, because it's a good program, and I like to see it. And we cover them, obviously, so I'm obviously biased that I want to see them do well because it helps with us. But USC schedule wise, they got Notre Dame in 2 weeks, or no, 2 weeks. Wait, no, next week. Sorry, and then Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, Oregon, and UCLA in the Coliseum. So 3 tough games in the Notre Dame, Nebraska, Oregon. Man, that's tough. I see at least one loss there in those next 3, those 3 tough ones. And more than likely, I would see it probably the Oregon game. But if they can get through Notre Dame, the sky's the limit at that point. So that's a huge game next week. I'm going to be really tuning into that one. Maava is slowly creeping up with like great stats, and no one really is talking about him too much for Heisman potential. So we'll see. I mean, if he keeps putting up these numbers, he's got to eventually get up there, especially if they keep winning. The loss to Illinois really, really sucked, but it's not the end of the world. They still have a lot to play for. Like, playoffs are still out there. This team is super talented. Ja'Kai Lemon is wide receiver 1, like without a doubt. The kid just makes plays everywhere. And then Jacoby Lane is a stud too. So like, this team is phenomenal. And then Danton Lynn has got the defense playing lights out now again. So this is a great team, USC. And like, they're not even ranked into this week. Now they're ranked after this win. So like, it's been kind of like under the radar. I don't know why they keep getting lowly ranked, but hey, we'll see it this week against Notre Dame. This is going to be the big test to see if they really are as good as they are. But let's move on. I got the LSU South Carolina game. This was closer than when I saw the final score, because I didn't get a chance to watch it live. When I saw the final score, I was like, whoa, wow. It's like LSU was kind of in control of this game. But like, South Carolina had the ball late with a chance and like just couldn't really like put things together. I mean, Sellers didn't have a great game. They were doing enough in the like past game to really like keep LSU honest, and like Nussmeier had a decent game, but he had 2 picks. So like, he struggled in a lot of ways. He like fumbled on the goal line late too. And like, I don't know, he's got a banged up ankle, so I don't know how healthy he is. LSU wins this one, but it's kind of really sad because South Carolina is like, I don't know how many games they're going to lose. Like, they're 3-3 at this point, and like, their schedule is brutal. Like, they have Alabama, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Clemson at the end too. So it's like, man, best of luck. I envision at least 2 or 3 more losses. So. And 2 or 3 more losses, that means they would be 6-6. Oof. That's brutal, considering they came in like as potential playoff team with Sellers and like a lot of hype. And like, I thought he was going to have some Heisman hype, and it's like, it is just not there. And LSU survives and moves on. Their schedule, I know they've got Alabama, and they've got, they've got Vanderbilt next week, A&M, Alabama, and Oklahoma. So they got a tough road. So I envision at least 1 more loss there. 1 loss would get them in the playoff, 3 maybe. So we'll see. With Clemson doing bad, it really kind of kills their non-conference schedule because they don't have that many great teams on their non-conference. But LSU, still a lot to play for with only 1 loss. So we'll see from them. Nussmeier is still a solid quarterback. I still don't love LSU's defense, but they're doing enough to win, so that really counts. So, okay, moving on. BYU, Arizona. This game, man, this was wild because I was watching it like the highlight package, and I'm like, man, BYU is like not doing good here, and Arizona was like, Fafita was having a game. Like he had like a couple throws that were just like monster touchdowns. I'm like, man, they're gonna do this, and then near the end of the fourth, Bear Bachmeier, just kid ice in his veins, just takes him down the field, 20 seconds left, runs in for the touchdown, just boom, ties it, go to overtime. They do field goal matching back and forth. And then BYU gets the chance first, and Brockmeyer just does it again, runs it in for the TD, and then they get the stop. And it's just like, man, BYU, like, I'm telling you, man, this kid Bear is like, he just has the knack for winning. And like, BYU is solid. Like, they're just like, they're not like the most talented team in the country, but they're very sound in how they play football. They tackle well. They do the little things. They play great special teams, and they do the small things, the little details to win games. And that's what they did last year. And I think they're even better this year than they were last year, because I think Retzlaff is not as good as a quarterback as Bear Bachmeier, because I think Bear's just got it. He's got a better arm, and he seems to be a more faster, athletic quarterback than Retzlaff. Even though Retzlaff is athletic, he's just not as athletic as Bear. But man, this team, I'll tell you what, man, they're number 15 now. They're a surprise team too, because like no one talks about them. They're just like, they play a lot of their games late. No one really is like, you don't hear a ton of media hype about them. Next week is the Holy War with Utah. They got a tough schedule the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks. They got Utah next week, Iowa State, Texas Tech, TCU, BYU. So like, man, it is a gauntlet. If they're going to prove themselves, they're going to do it in the next couple of weeks. And right now, that BYU Texas Tech game, I got that circled, man. If I had some, if I was doing better financially right now, I would be at that game, because that seems like it'd be fun. That would be an interesting game. But no, shout out to BYU, because they've done very well. Like, considering that they had to deal with the loss of their quarterback at like the last minute, and they had to go to a freshman quarterback who's just killing it right now. So, they're making the most of it and doing quite well. Okay, last two games, Arizona State, Utah. I didn't know if Sam Levitt was going to play this game when I made the prediction, and I thought Utah was going to do quite well on the ground. And I did not watch the highlight package of this one because I didn't have time, like I said. And Dampier didn't even throw the ball a ton, but he had a ton of yards on the ground. And that's what I thought was going to happen. I thought they were going to run the ball all over them, and they did, because that's what Utah does, 276 on the ground. And I didn't think Arizona State's defense was good enough to be able to stop that. And add on to the fact that Sims is really not that great of a quarterback because Levitt was out. So that's a recipe for disaster for Arizona State. And Utah in Salt Lake City is really tough to play. There were no turnovers in the game. But again, when you dominate on the ground in this game, you're going to be able to score a ton of points. And that's what Utah did. They did it against UCLA to begin the year, and they do it again here. And now they're ranked again. So Arizona State takes that loss, and it was like a lot of people were hyping Arizona State again because they're 4-1. They had some good wins. But now Utah looks like a team that really has, everything to play for. Outside of that Texas Tech loss, they look like they're in the driver's seat here. They have some relatively manageable games the rest of the year. Colorado, Baylor, Kansas State, Kansas. Those are 4 like decently, possibly them being favored games. The 2 tough ones after that are BYU and Cincinnati. But I mean, you could see Utah with 10 wins potentially out of that. So that probably gets them into the Big 12 championship game. And if they win that, they get in the playoff. I don't think they're good enough to beat any of the potential playoff teams that are up there right now. But that would be huge for them, especially with Willingham near the end of his tenure. So I don't know. It's possible, but I don't think they're going to beat BYU. and it hinges on beating probably Cincinnati to really like solidify their chance. So, all right, let's move on to that last one. Ian's got that G5 game of the week. I did not watch this one either, so I don't know a ton about it. But Dan Mullen again proving that he knows offense, and Calandria had 361 yards passing. This game was a shootout. They had 597 yards of offense, but then Dan doesn't like defense, so he ended up allowing 603 yards of offense by Air Force, who had 428 yards on the ground. Just ridiculous. Yeah, this game ended 51-48 in regulation, not even overtime was that score. So that's crazy. But UNLV gets the win, and UNLV has a shot at the playoff if they keep winning. But next week is that matchup in Boise. So I think Boise's better than them just because they have a better defense. And like, I don't think UNLV is going to be able to stop them offensively. So I envision Boise winning that game by at least like 7 to 10 points. And that would pretty much eliminate UNLV from going to the playoffs. So, still a good run. I mean, Dan is probably exactly where he needs to be at a smaller school that he doesn't have to recruit, and he can just scheme up X's and O's because he's great at that. He's probably one of the best ever. He really is. Like those 2 years with Kyle Trask were some of the best offenses Florida's ever had, and that's saying something with Steve Spurrier being coach and Dan Mullen being the offensive coordinator before, and like that offense was phenomenal in those 2 years that Dan was here, or the couple years he was here, especially those 2. But he's in the right spot. Like UNLV, it's perfect for him. If he goes any higher, he's probably not going to recruit, and the team's going to struggle against good teams. This way, he can play bad teams and just dominate, and that's what he does. That's what he's good at. But that is the show. Reach us at haterradio.com. I haven't any articles lately. I might write something just to like put it out there to get more traffic to the website. But reach us at our socials. Type in Hater Radio. It comes right up. We have shows every Sunday and Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Today it was a little bit later. I just a little bit behind, like I said, but we'll be on at 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Look for the show then. Ian should be back then too as well. And take care, y'all, and I'll talk to you then.